Due to the Mid-Autumn Festival, this is a holiday time in China. We may not get insurance registration data, or we may have to wait and we'll get it later in the week, at which point I will do a video and cover it. But there are other things to talk about, like this, NIO Power. This is an update. NIO Power now has 2,523 battery swap stations and 3,993 charging stations. That's as of September 17th. The infrastructure build out continues for NIO, exactly what I want to see. Because as I talked about in a video the other day, NIO and NIO Stock, NIO is an IDE, an innovative driven enterprise. That means it has massive global footprint potential. And that's also why I looked at it as a long-term play. In the video, I talked about Apple, NVDA, Amazon, Netflix, NIO, and Tesla as IDEs. And I'm going to do a future video where I'll hone in on and do a little bit of a comparison with the earlier fails to deliver numbers, or the FTDs, with those stocks relative to the stock price. And then eventually, once the companies that have gotten to profitability and been massively profitable, then what that looked like with the FTDs and the stock price. So I'm looking forward to that. But that video actually brought a great comment and question. And so I'm going to highlight that and talk about that in just a second. First, though, on the right-hand side, this is kind of the growth trajectory for an IDE, an innovative driven enterprise. And right here, I think this is a great explanation. The new venture in the IDE subset of startups faces initial challenges. Example, greater investment at the start before revenue turned positive, resulting in negative earnings for a period, but with the prospect of impact later and exponential growth further up the curve. So what you see is the investment phase goes for a while, but once it turns, it can turn up and show explosive growth into profitability. That's what I'm looking for. So I really appreciated this question and comment from the video. JLHI 2119, what's up? Says, thank you for the information and video. I appreciate the work you do on your channel. Question, where on the IDE curve do you think NIO is? Are you able to estimate if we are still on the downtrend, at the trough, rising? So I actually had to stop and ponder this and kind of look back at the chart and then think about things. So here's my thought. And again, remember, the investment phase can take a while, but at some point, what I'm expecting is this explosive growth into and beyond profitability. Probably, I think if things play out the way I think this company will build out everything globally, I think the profits will be much larger than what anyone is yet talking about, thinking about, or recognizing. So I hope I'm right. But now here's my comment on where I think we are. First of all, I said, good question. I don't know. If I had to speculate or make a guess, I'd say NIO is heading back up. See my thoughts and points below. 2025 might be the pivotal point for NIO on the trajectory side of things with growth. NIO bringing out both sub-brands, and the Onvo L60 deliveries, for example, start here in the year of 2024, but 2025 is where we might see the ramp of deliveries. But as far as the investment side, NIO bringing out both sub-brands, the ET9, and continued investments overall, the infrastructure build out, for example, that all costs money. But if deliveries ramp, investments could be offset, and the growth of NIO deliveries could help NIO turn positive, especially if numerous products are launched and delivered well. The big X factor might be the absorbed costs by partners in expansion of things like power swap stations, the build out both inside of China and outside of it, along with increased other revenues, which could surprise. At some point, I do expect those to surprise. If I'm being conservative, I'll say 2025 might show profits for NIO, but even if it does, they might not be massive. However, 2025 might end up being the big indicator of NIO perhaps surprising with very big profits in 2026. The Chinese market remains the key for all of this in my mind. A positive surprise from outside markets could also help NIO, but I'm not going to count on that. I want to remain and kind of continue to have this conservative view and be thinking more long-term. Finally, let's talk briefly about NIO, the fails to deliver, the stock price, what's happening right now. In the short term, I continue to track this. I want to have a sense of, whether we're about to have an uptrend with the stock price. And so the three things on the ticker at the bottom of the screen, I'll continue to keep there until I feel like we have clarity with either a new uptrend or that shorts remain in control. So with that, I just did a video talking about the recent fails to deliver and what we got for that data. And interestingly enough, as far as the volume goes, we've got almost 30 million shares traded, over 29 million and a half shares traded. It is going to be about noon my time. I'm Central Standard Time. So basically the first portion of the day is in the books here. NIO stock is up, but in my mind, I've got a few things that I had said I was watching this week. We have the Federal Reserve is meeting today and tomorrow. So whether you want to call it a Fed pump or not allowing the market to tank, I'd be surprised if the market drops too much if or during the time frames when they're meeting. But let's see. We'll see what happens. Of course, after the meeting, things could get interesting if we do, in fact, have a pump during the meeting time for them. Also, the launch of Onvo, and I'm still waiting and wondering what we'll see for an official sales price with battery as a service when that gets offered. So that's also going to be happening. Again, I'll come back with the insurance registration data. The fails to deliver already covered. The sentiment, and for me, I continue to do this sort of sentiment check. I'm going to random channels and listening to what they're saying about NIO and Onvo, but also looking in the comment section and letting that sort of be a bit of an indicator. I'm very excited about the long term. Short term, who knows? It's anybody's guess. If I, for example, zoom out to the full history of the FTD chart, what I think is pretty apparent is there seems to be a bit of a correlation between the stock price, which is the yellow, and the fails to deliver, represented in white. Fails to deliver is basically a simple way to think about it is that's when there could have been naked shorting, potentially illegal or illicit shorting going on with the stock price. So maybe not surprising that during this time frame where NIO stock ran, fails to deliver dropped off, but also the trade volume was really high for NIO stock. So I remember a lot of days seeing 80, 100 million or more shares traded on a kind of daily average. So with that, again, coming back to this number for today, for example, not quite to 30 million, about halfway through the day. This isn't huge volume, but we've had these big elevated FTD spikes recently, and we hadn't seen FTDs spiking that much since way back here before NIO stock made that really big run. So what do you think? Are we in a new uptrend? Are the shorts still in control? It took them about 3 years to pull this thing down, and they still couldn't pull it down relative or as much or as fast as NIO stock moved up in a 6-month time frame. So I still remain not only excited about the long-term prospects, but the short-term is going to be fun to continue to monitor and track here on the channel. As I like to say, I'll keep nerding out. Thanks for stopping by. Drop a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you'll get updates of when I release a new video. I normally forget to ask, so I'm just glad I remembered this time. Thanks. Have a great day. I'll see y'all again very soon.